Hey everybody, Darren and Dedo here for Mother's Day. We are honoring all those ghost hunting mamas out there, which includes our very special guest, Paranormal Investigator Alexis Rae. Yeah, she is the founder of her paranormal group, A Hunting in Colorado, and of course she's a mom. We will talk about her work-life balance, which includes hunting ghosts, and what her young daughter thinks of mama chasing those spirits. Alexis is looking for some answers about one of the most haunted spots in the world. I'm talking about the Waverly Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky. Maryam will remote view into this legendary location to connect with the lost souls and spirits stuck in a place of sadness and despair. A salute to ghost hunting moms out there. Unexplained Cases Live is next.
You know, I just get in my feels with that groove. So
is that like some kind of like Jay-Z ripoff or something? Was that like?
I know.
See, you know, it's one of those. I just found it. You know, I found it. And it's like, just gotta see. Hey,
oh, you're the guy that does the I like that song.
See, you have to have that in there. Hey, folks, happy Mother's Day. Welcome to another Unexplained Cases Live. You got Mr. Dedo, Miss Medium. If we're going with that theme, Mr. Garner. So
M squared.
Isn't that your last name, right?
Medium?
Medium. Yeah.
Sure.
Medium rare.
You know, it would work for branding purposes, I guess, maybe, or something like that. But yeah, today being Mother's Day, I kind of had this crazy little thought, basically, because we know there's a whole bunch of people that are already floating around in the chat right now. Sydney, Irene, Aaron, Kara, Jeremy. Hey, guys, welcome. You know, there's some people in there I immediately recognize as moms, Mary Christina. So whether it's two-legged or four-legged, you know, I mean.
Thank you.
Well, of course. Shout out to the fur babies because they're family too. My goodness, I've got hey Jeff, welcome, and James. I've got 3 here myself. One who's getting a little sneaky. I don't trust Henry sometimes. Henry's my calico there, who tabby, who can be a little interesting. So
come and rip your face off in the middle of the show. That would be awesome.
You know, he's pretty chill. He's not quite that bad. Now,
okay,
that's pretty morbid.
I know, right? Percy, you know, now he could get a little dangerous. He's the orange tabby. So, but and then there's Sophie the Beagle. So you know, that's my 4-legged household there. So
we have a dead body next door to us.
I'm sorry, what?
No. We were just talking about family members. I thought I'd just dive in with that.
Did you are you connecting with them already or?
No. So we've been here for 2 months, and when we first moved in, we're on the second floor. There's a staircase, and there's us. And then one other person here. That's all that's up on this second floor, right? Because everyone has their own separate walk-up, okay? And so you know how the landlords will put notes on your door and you'll grab. Okay, so no one was taking the notes off their door.
Oh, no.
And every now and then you hear a phone ring, and it's like one of those old school phones, right? Like really old school. And so you're just like, okay, maybe like they left for COVID or whatever. And then ever since we've lived here, there's just been some like random stuff like floating around that bugs Oliver a little bit, but nothing like just like there's some entity that's wandering this like complex. And so I don't care. I don't deal with it, but I'm just kind of taking note of all this stuff. And then something happened, and I said to Bruce, I was like, oh, one of the drawers in my dresser will just fall open. And I showed him one day how it just like slowly started to open, and I was like, see, I think there's just something. There's something.
Get your phone next time and please start videoing that. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so then I was kind of joking but serious. I said to Bruce, I was like, I'm telling you, I've been saying this since we moved in. That neighbor of ours is dead. That body, there's a body in there. He's like, you know what? We would have smelled it by now. Or there would have been. He said this. There would have been flies, and then Guess what appeared 2 days later in our hallway? Fruit flies.
Oh,
There's no fruit plants anywhere around here. Okay.
Oh,
and I said to Bruce, I was like, look, there's fruit flies out there. And he's like, there's no way there's fruit flies. There's no fruit out here. There's no food. There's no nothing. And someone comes and cleans a couple times a week. And I was like, I'm telling you, there's a dead body in there. Like, something's going on over there. So, what are you going to do?
So, well, it wasn't, I'm surprised they didn't do like a welfare check if the family or friends couldn't get a hold of the individual, or the property manager might,
You think.
Yeah.
But now what I find more interesting basically would be, okay, so someone passes away next door and the first thing they want to
Hopefully it's not a homicide.
Is mess with your drawers. I mean, that's what they're going to do. I mean, come on.
Shit my drawers.
Dedo, don't do it.
What'd you say?
Ship my drawers. You need to ship your drawers.
I don't get it.
Never mind. It's just never mind.
All right, fair enough. Anyway, so I mean, what we could do is like a remote view over there one of these days. Bruce,
for God's sakes, go knock on the door.
Oh, we could do that.
Hello. I'm Maryam. I talk to dead people. Hello.
What I love is in the comments at moments like this, like Kira is LOL OMG. I mean, it's basically you see.
Sydney got it. Sydney got the joke.
See,
well
played.
Yes. It was like a Super Bowl ad years ago, and it was like, ship my drawers, and there was other little things that they were saying that were supposed to say bad things, but Yeah,
that was anticlimactic. I think the best part of the whole thing was like when you have these conversations with Bruce, he's just always like, all right, well, I mean, what are you going to do? And I'm like,
I mean, somebody's dead next door. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? And I'm like, when I showed him the drawer opening, he was just like, well, are you going to do something about it?
Well, he's going to grab the camera next time is what you're going to do.
I mean, because Rick and Darren.
Sticky note on the drawer or something.
Rick and Darren are like evidence.
I thought it was because the dressers knew. And I thought for sure when I showed Bruce, he was like, "Oh, there's something," because Bruce is Mr. Fix-It handyman, and I was figured he would just debunk the whole thing and go, "No, I got to do blah 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 blah" to it. And he's like, "No, that thing's fine." And he's like, "This is all you, dude." And I'm like,
"Oh, you've moved into The Conjuring, and you didn't even know it."
I know.
So Darren, we've been working with her for a year now, and you would think that one of the first things she knows is something happens in her house, get it recorded.
Document it.
I mean, we need documentation. That's like rule number one.
That much.
At least draw stick figures or something like a flippy book thing.
Stick figures.
Hey, that's where we'll call Angela because she can do better than stick figures. So
I think what's more fun than the drawer actually opening is recording Bruce's response to things, because he's the only individual on the planet that just goes.
See, Bruce is the quintessential emoji of I mean, this is
he is.
Alexis, I'm glad that you've been listening to all this insanity. What do you think about all this?
I think you're onto something. I think maybe there is something next door.
Or maybe we're just on something. I mean, either way. So
it's true. It's true. How's it going, Alexis? Nice to see you.
It's going great. It's so good to see you guys too. I'm so happy to be here.
Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah. So we knowing that we've been chatting for a while, been a fan of the show. You've been doing some investigating, but also being a mom. It was just like, well, hey, you know what? All the things are lining up for an interesting weekend. And on top of that, you chose a remote location of Waverly Hills, which is kind of like the Six Flags over the paranormal, basically, as far as a location goes. Whether she remembers it or not, has been there twice. Well, do you know that you've been there twice though already?
No, remote. That I don't. No.
It's like I have all that. No. Well, Brian Murray from Ghost Hunters.
I remember that. when was the second?
The first time was when you looked at that picture of the gal hanging out in the hallway, which if I have that somewhat handy, I can bring that up if we need to. But
that's right.
Yeah, that was one. Brian was second, and now third time is the charm with Alexis. So what's going to be interesting will be what's the connection, basically, because you were very quick to draw into that, which is always key about these requests. Alexis was very quick to draw into that.
To draw into, I'm sorry, I missed something. To draw into what?
To choose that as a location.
Got it. I'm sorry. I missed the funny joke that everyone got, and I'm not following. I don't know. Sorry. I mean, I don't know what's happening. My tripod.
That's all right. That's all right. You've been breathing the fumes from a dead body for the last week, so we'll cut you some slack.
You're getting some slack cut right there, basically, for sure. But Alexis, I mean, tell us a little bit. Basically, is there any particular reason why, that was the first thing that came to mind when I was talking to you about a location?
Yes. So I've been into haunted locations since I was a kid, really. And my best friend, her dad lived in Kentucky, and we always wanted to go to Waverly Hills. And I actually did this oil painting of Waverly Hills when I was a kid.
Oh, nice.
Hold on. Now let's go.
I wanted to go there my whole life.
Let's see it again.
Let's see it again. Show it. I was going to put you full screen so everybody could get a good look at that. So that's awesome.
Scary.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I've always been so fascinated with it. And then as I started to do more research, I found out about all these crazy legends and stories. And it's probably the juiciest, paranormal gossip that I've ever heard. Some of these stories, it gets pretty wild. Yeah.
Nice.
And this summer, me and my partner, the other girl who does the channel with me, her name is Paige, we're actually taking a road trip up to New York, but we're stopping in Kentucky to go to Waverly because I've wanted to go there for so long.
Hey, that's great.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, since it's about that time, we could slide on, and for everyone, we'll be able to chat with Alexis in a little bit more to find out the background, what it's like being a mom in the paranormal, and all that good stuff a little bit later in the show. But of course, Em, are you situated? Do you have all your pictures and fun?
You got your seatbelt?
I had to put a pillow under my bum.
Oh,
that's
damn.
I have 2 yoga mats and now a pillow, so
paranormal road rash.
Wow. I didn't know that
Alexis
was a thing.
Is like, oh my God, this guy is just a loose cannon.
So last week,
me up already. I love it.
Last week was hashtag hair pits.
Yeah,
this week is hashtag paranormal.
Oh yeah, we didn't get to talk about your pits.
Rash.
Did you trim your hair at all, or how you doing?
It's not the hair under my arms. It's the hair here that gets stuck. Oh, Alexis, you'll know that.
Oh yeah, totally. It gets in there. Yeah.
Okay.
Finally, it's not 1 against 2.
I get you, girl.
Thank you.
Nice. All right. Hey, well, so Penny, Little Oz Laurel. Hey, good day. And
I like
Vicky,
that. That's cool.
The paranormal side, a whole bunch of folks. Gina, thanks everybody for being here.
Old Chinn, I saw him a little while ago.
Old Chinn snuck in as what is that? Yeah. OLE. Let's make sure it's OLE, not OLD.
Okay, I got
you.
Old Chinn. I'm sure he'll get some.
Oh yeah, you already got that.
Although I've got a little bit of an old chin going myself here, basically with this all.
All right, let's do this. Shut up.
Okay. roll that beautiful bean footage. Come on.
Okay, I have a question. Not for you, Rick.
Okay, fine.
What? Alexis, I want to know what your. Okay, without giving me too much information, you have a specific connection to this location. What is it? What have you felt like it is?
I feel like there's just been so much turmoil and suffering there, and I'm kind of an empathetic person like that. I really feel people's pain, and I just feel drawn to it. I feel like maybe there's someone who needs my help or something calling me to it, I guess you could say.
How long have you felt that for?
About like 15 years.
Tell us about
Wow.
the first time you remember feeling that connection to it.
Yeah, before YouTube got really big, my best friend and I, we would just look up websites of haunted places and just read about them. And when we first read about Waverly, we just kind of brushed on it and moved on to something else. But that night I went home and I just felt so drawn to look up more. And I was on the computer all night for like 3 or 4 nights, just trying to learn about
Whoa.
it. And I just kept getting pulled back into it.
Okay. So you were a teacher there. And I know that this was a hospital, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, it was for people suffering from tuberculosis.
Okay,
Mhm.
but you were a teacher there. So I'll see if we get more information if you were a teacher for doctors or something of that sort. But you were a teacher, they keep saying, and you were one for some reason you were one of the few that practiced real medicine or honest medicine that wasn't like fraudulent almost. You were practicing this real honest approach to seeking like preventative healing. It's almost as if you were all ahead of your time and you were trying to figure out how to not only create preventative, but also help these people to not just suffer and die there. Because you saw that this place was one where once you were there, you were dead. Like there was no getting out of there. And so you were trying to figure out how to get people to heal and leave. But you had the odds against you. People were not on your side. You had one person in particular you worked very closely with. That person has come back into body now as your daughter. And you two at that time were very close. Your partner also that you mentioned is also connected. I don't have a picture of her, but that's all right. I'm just being told she was also part of, it was you, your partner, and your daughter. It's normal for us to, everyone we're with this time, we've been with in other lifetimes. It's just our soul cluster. It's how it works. So, but for you guys, you three, you all worked together prior. You came back this time around to continue doing work that is considered unusual, considered not the norm. But you're being asked to also tap into your medicinal or medical side, that the brain holds on to DNA and memory from other lifetimes, and that still lives in you. It's still there. They're showing me a specific, like you standing in front of this one room with questioning some of the doctors' behavior and some of their choices, because you were in over your head in the sense that these doctors there really had no intention of really fixing anything. Some of them were actually making things a lot worse. So
Was that intentional or was that unintentional? They were making it worse.
A lot of it was just this very this is a good question. A lot of it was just kind of that typical, like what you see. It's kind of like when you see like somebody who works for an organization, or a company, and they just do the bare minimum. And it's like, listen, I don't know. I was just trained to do this. This is over my head. I don't know what the hell's going on here. And so Some of them had that attitude. And some of them were just like, I don't even know how I ended up working here. This is awful. Get me out of here. There was a select few that were wanting to help, but they just knew the resources and the people that worked around them, that no matter how much they wanted to change things, it just wasn't going to happen. You came in and you were trying to have legitimate conversations with people and doctors, and it wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't it wasn't going anywhere. So your approach at that time was to simply bond with the patients and let them know that you were there and you were doing everything you could. You weren't giving them a false sense of hope, but you were giving them just this sense of, I am trying. I don't know that I'll be able to do anything in the end, but someone here is fighting for you. Your daughter was like a colleague, and your partner was a boss, someone that worked over you at that time. You had, this is very, very like, this picture here is like really, sorry, Rick.
Oh,
look
yes.
at
All the patients.
I've seen that picture multiple times. Yes.
That picture there is very much like the visual they're showing me, but also they keep showing me this situation of you standing in the doorway. So there's something about this. There was something about one specific patient, you in the doorway. Was there a lot of suicides there?
There were some.
Everything that you're saying is crazy, because before it was Waverly Hills Sanatorium, it was actually a school. It was built as a school, and there was a teacher there named Mary. And this teacher actually went on to work in the tuberculosis ward when it switched over to that. And she was a nurse, and she actually had an affair with this doctor, and she got pregnant. And the doctor gave her a forced abortion, and she ended up losing so much blood that she died. And he staged it as a suicide, and he actually hung her right in front of the door of room 502.
502. Yeah, Mary Lee.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
So when you say teacher, and then I don't know, it all just like, it all ties in.
Yeah,
sure.
because the doorway, I keep seeing you in a doorway. Like
that freaks me out a little bit.
Rick, do you have that picture by chance? There's that picture. I don't know if you remember. It's a pretty famous one that was taken in 2006, right there.
Yes.
So we're thinking that could be Alexis.
That could be technically Mary Lee, and then maybe Alexis.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was you earlier too. I was wondering. If
Looks like something from American Horror Story.
It really does. It's funny because American Horror Story used a lot of the real life stories from Waverly Hills to write a lot of their seasons. Like Asylum was pretty loosely based off of the true events at Waverly.
I mean, this picture actually looks like you, Alexis.
It does a little bit.
The face, the shape of the face is exactly the same as yours.
Yeah, I see that too.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Well, there's your show.
well, we could talk about the thousands of people that got dropped down the body chute. That's really, they would, because there were so many people dying there, they had to figure out a way to get them past the patients. So they built this body chute, and they'd have the rail cars back up to where it is, and they would put all the bodies down the chute into the rail cars, and then, wherever they would take them to bury them or cremate them or something like that. So hundreds, if not, Alexis, what do you think? Hundreds or thousands of bodies probably were taken down that chute?
Oh yeah, I heard it was somewhere around 100 a day sometimes, and they just didn't want to discourage the people who were sick. They didn't want them to think, oh, another person died, I'm gonna die too. Yeah. So they tried to hide it with the body chute. And now the body chute is halfway collapsed, and people have said they've had a lot of things happen in there that are really creepy.
There she blows.
Oh, is that I was gonna say, what is
pitch dark? That would, just on fear alone, it would freak me out. Take the whole paranormal stuff out of there.
Yeah. They put bodies down that weren't fully dead either, I'm being told.
Yeah,
yes, I heard that too, actually. I just read about that. There was a girl who had a surgery on her lungs. They would actually put balloons in the patient's lungs, trying to inflate them so that their lungs would stay open. And a girl was actually awake during this entire procedure, and she described everything when she woke up. She remembers being cut with the scalpel, and they actually thought she was dead, and they took her in the body chute, and she remembers that too.
Oh,
God.
How
did she get out of that? Like, how did she get out of the chute?
I don't know all of the details.
Screaming all the way down. Yeah, and the other thing is they would remove their ribs.
Yeah,
so they could supposedly expand their lungs to breathe. A lot of that stuff is pretty barbaric. I mean, if
It
you look
really
at it,
is,
it was some pretty. They were doing a lot of experimentation because they didn't know what was going on. But just think of all that sadness and death and despair. That's why it's just so active. You know what I mean? The place, the walls, everything, the ground, the energy there.
Alexis,
Yes.
did you have any specific questions about this location that you wanted to know about?
I really want to know if the rumor about Mary being murdered is true. That's one thing I've always been drawn to. So when you're telling me all this, I'm like, I always have been drawn to that specific story. But I want to know if that's true.
I mean,
And
Rick,
also,
Rick, do you remember what I said about that picture?
Yeah, from what I recall, Mr. Dedo has some notes as well. I mean, you confirmed that incident
Let me see if I can
happened.
find that.
The way it was described, what you confirmed was that she actually wasn't pregnant. She was using that as a manipulation tool. That's what I remember.
Alexis. Come on. Okay. And what,
Are you now? You're saying that she didn't? She did hang herself, though, right?
Because
I'm looking at my
should have
notes.
actually looked at that again, but
well,
did you
so
check
that
that
the
out?
doctor hung her to make it look like a suicide because he accidentally killed her during the abortion.
Yeah, see, there's the urban legend part, but as far as what you actually confirmed, Em, was that I don't remember touching on that specific. It's just the fact that she definitely was using that as a manipulation tool.
But there was two
Wow.
nurses that killed themselves, correct? You had Mary, and then wasn't there another nurse that supposedly hung herself? I mean, yet
Yes.
again, this is one of those things, is
Same
it true?
room.
It's same 502.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why there's that dark energy, supposedly. I mean, there's so many Mary was murdered. She did not kill herself. Well, there you go. John said that too.
So, and John and the rest of, several members from Pun TV, which were part of that family, actually had a 2-night investigation
Cool.
recently. So that's where John chiming in on that. Also, Mr. Stephen Woodard there walked to the bottom of the chute, sat there alone for 20 minutes. That was a couple weeks ago when they did that.
That's hardcore.
Which 20 minutes alone in that, yeah, that's hardcore, to say the least.
It is, yeah.
Also, John has got, when I channel Sarah, said that she was killed and her murder was covered up. Ernie at Waverly confirmed that. I also was feeling that there was another murder by the same Dr. Orley.
Ooh, wow.
Yep,
well,
Stephen, she did not hang herself. Murdered, okay?
And then they faked it or made it look that way. Yeah, wow.
I told you guys, juicy.
It is. It's scintillating. Yes,
Hashtag juicy.
Just think that's all happening while all these people are dying around you because they can't breathe anymore. I mean, just the amount of just depression and anxiety and everything. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It was staged to look like a suicide. There we go. That's what Courtney said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great place to take the kids. It sounds like it's like why the hell go to Disneyland?
Right, some dark history. And then there's Angela. She's got something going for us. What's going on here?
She first identified herself as a nurse, but the closer she got to me, she felt more like a patient.
I was thinking the same thing.
And I'm feeling the pressure in my lungs. I'm sorry, like TB is really tough. I picked it up before. It is like the worst feeling. But she kept saying, grandmother, home, when do I get to go home? And I feel like she's like wandering the hallways, like still asking, like, when do I get to go home? When do I get to go home? And she was particularly close with her grandmother. And I feel like she was raised by her grandmother, and I feel like she had some sort of developmental issue mentally. That she wasn't, even though she had an adult body, it was like she had a child's mind, and that her grandmother took care of her. And she keeps wanting to go home. When do I get to go home? When I go home? and she just wants to meet up with her grandmother. And she feels like she's like on the fourth floor, like wandering around, like asking, "Do you know where my grandma? Where's grandma?" But she just needs some understanding, and it's hard for her to understand. She doesn't have an adult understanding of things. So you'd have to bring her grandmother in and ask grandmother to come get her, because she doesn't understand why grandma hasn't taken her home yet.
That's
Wow.
Yeah, it is.
sad.
Well,
Oh,
and I
man.
think what you're touching on, Angela, is what maybe some people forget, or at least detach themselves from, is you have a location as huge as it is, and frankly, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's next door to Miriam, or if it's basically this ridiculously huge property that thousands upon thousands of lives went through and were affected. The point being that these were lives. And I think it's apropos that Papa Pun here, basically, you knew I was going to get that nickname in there, didn't you, Stephen? A lot of what was on TV is simply not true. A ton of stories out there trying to get right. That's the thing, is like you have these stories, you have these urban legends, and it's like, ooh, it's creepy, it's spooky, but it's like, these are real people. These are real lives. And it's not something to treat with like, oh, whimsical, whatever like that. And I think Angela just very poignantly pointed that out with just that picture and that little snapshot.
Now, after it closed, didn't it become a care facility for people with dementia? Wasn't it like some type of memory loss?
Yes.
So I mean,
not geriatric ward.
So I'm not just. I mean, maybe this individual, when you say that she's having some, issues, could she maybe have been one of the dementia patients that doesn't really know what's going on?
She's, but I think she was developmentally disabled from childhood. Okay, and that the grandmother raised her, and that the grandmother was like the only family she had. It's like nobody wanted to take that responsibility for her. So,
Oh, that's terrible.
And especially, I mean, if you talk about earlier time frames, there was a kind of a shame associated with if you had some, a child that had disabilities. There was quite a bit of shame associated with that. And the grandmother literally took care of this child, and this child, got sick. But as an adult, I mean, he's an adult, but a child body. I mean, child mind, essentially. Developmentally, not all there. It almost feels like mentally, she feels like a young child in an adult body. So it's hard for her because she wants to find her grandmother, and she kind of looks for her grandmother for guidance, and then she was left there, unfortunately, when she got sick.
So there were a few patients who were there to be treated for tuberculosis, and then they also ended up in the geriatric ward later, and they had essentially been admitted into the same building twice for two separate reasons. But also a lot of kids were admitted there because both of their parents had TB, and even though the kids didn't have it, they had no one to care for them. So they had a children's ward just for kids whose parents both had TB. So there's supposed to be a lot of child spirits there too, and there's a lot of stories about that.
Yeah, Alexis, what do you think about the story about, isn't it Timmy or Timothy, that obviously he must have died from TB or something happened, and a lot of investigators go in there, they put a ball down, they supposedly can communicate with him, and he'll roll the ball. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, just from an investigative standpoint.
Actually, I heard that Timmy was being treated with electric shock therapy, and there was two nurses and their boss present in the room. The two nurses were saying, "Stop shocking him, he's going to die." The doctor kept turning it up, and his eyes began to glow from all the electric shock, and he was just,
good Lord,
the scream he let out was awful, and he actually did die right at that moment. And the nurses swore that they saw a black entity dart up into the corner of the room, and a bunch of stuff got knocked over, and they immediately felt a huge sense of dread and just turmoil. And that spirit has been said to stalk people that go and investigate there and follow them. And actually the owners make you sign a waiver saying that if you see that entity, you have to leave, because people have been pushed down the stairs after they've seen it. People have been hurt. That's what I heard.
So that could be a real fun scenario. We also have, going back to John, many as 5 women killed by the same person. Killer being referred to as Chris.
Wow.
So that's something. I think Stephen's referring to when the name Ernie, John mentioned earlier, working very hard to get the facts out there. These are the folks that conducted the tour, as well as Beth Allen on site. Because I think that's what's important is you actually have some people who are, research. That's very important. But that's the thing is you have
but
research.
that doesn't make good television.
Well,
that's
could.
The problem. Well, see, that's the thing. And I'm not going to name the show. I was watching one last night, and I know the story just from being out in this neck of the woods. It's like the way it was crafted with the storytelling and probably a little bit of script writing. They were trying to get something across that I don't think was necessarily true. But I mean, so many places, so many groups have been to Waverly. Not trying to rip on the TV people, but sometimes I think that they push the envelope just a little bit too much.
Well, sure, but I think what's so interesting though is it's kind of like in Darren with especially with your reporting background. I know that this comes key is like you can have an incident, and let's say that like 80%, 20% of it is factually shared, but maybe someone decides to throw in just a tiny bit of sensationalism. That maybe it's where some evidence was actually found versus where it sounds sexier if it was found. Just pulling something out of the air.
Why let facts get in the way of a good story?
Right?
Pretty much. That's what it is. I mean, truly, that's what it is.
And all of a sudden, it's like here you have something to where it's like it sounds true. But then it's like, well, it's not completely true because someone has put a little twist on it. And then if someone else adds another little twist, and then before long, you have a completely false story there, basically. So,
right. But do they what's the fee to investigate there? Does anybody know? I'm sure it's got to cost a pretty penny, right? Rick and I couldn't show up with our Radio Shack gear, and want to go. We can run by the dollar store,
Well, that's something I've always appreciated about these locations. At the end of the day, folks who actually own them, I mean, they're trying to preserve them. So
absolutely,
I think one way to do that is to have this revenue stream. It's almost kind of a guarantee. Whoa,
1,000 coin for 6 hours. Okay, so let's start a Kickstarter after the show.
It's and then you get 6 hours right there for sure. But something that I also think would be quite interesting that we should talk about would be this little something that Angela had painted.
Look at that.
So so Alexis, this is for you from Angela, and I guess Angela, you're going to have to share what's going on here.
Oh, this is a little Native American boy, and he's your spirit guide, and as you see, he's holding and protecting your heart. He was called Little Warrior. And a lot of Native spirits will come through as children, simply because they are protecting, basically, your integrity, to teach you about your heart and using your heart, your empathy, as a tool for healing. And as you see, he's protecting it, so he is guiding you in this, and you have this Native American connection as a healer. So he is helping you in this. He's guiding you in this in the form of a child, so that you could always keep that compassion, the empathy, childlike. So you can, especially places when you're talking about Waverly Sanatorium, going into places, you have a lot of child spirits. And that empathy and that compassion, especially like a child reaching out to another child, is definitely going to draw them to you, and you can help.
Wow, that's pretty touching.
I love it.
It's really beautiful. It aligns with, I was saying earlier, how before the shows, I always ask Spirit if there is a certain background energy to use, and they were very adamant about the this animal spirit, which I felt very connected to Alexis. And I can see that Native American connection between the animals and the drawing. So it's always so cool when Angela and I sync up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And just as we're mentioning, scrolling along the bottom there, basically, if anyone else is intrigued, interested, curious about Angela being able to provide a spirit portrait for them, just reach out to her on Facebook. And I'll also drop the link into the comments to make it even easier to get a hold of her. But as always, Angela, awesome
amazing
work.
job.
Thank you. So I've restocked the snacks in the green room, so enjoy those for a little bit, okay? So,
what kind of beer? But you probably got like Natural Light in there, something really crappy, probably.
O'Doul's. So
O'Doul's. Oh, good. I wanted some O'Doul's Amber. That's exactly. Let's tear this shit up. Let's get nuts tonight. Sorry, kids. That's a bad word. Sorry.
See, and it's on now, like Donkey Kong. Speaking of that. Actually, since we have a few minutes left, Em, you can go enjoy some of those snacks too. I've got some vegan ones in there just for you.
Go grab O'Doul's. We have some grass. There's some things in there.
Some
Great.
twigs.
Give me some grass.
Some twigs is fine. So, Mr. Dedo, I'll give you a chance to chat with Alexis there and let everybody know.
Or we can all sit here and chat. Everybody doesn't have to go away.
I don't know. He's pretty adamant about kicking me out, needing grass.
Well, I'll go check on that body and then get back to us at the end of the show. Give us a report on the flies, how bad they are now.
Go look for that and let us know, okay? Would you?
Give us a sniff test.
Oh my gosh.
Well, Alexis, like I said, we're just going to chat. But, I always like to ask people, what got them intrigued about the paranormal. Did you grow up in a haunted house, or if you had an experience, how did you get into all this crazy stuff?
Yes. So actually I was going through a divorce. I had kind of a rough couple of years, and my ex-boyfriend, who was kind of the love of my life, he killed himself.
Oh dear.
And that really, it shook my whole world, obviously. But as soon as he died, him and I always told each other, whoever dies first, whichever one of us dies first, we have to haunt the other person, and we're gonna totally mess with each other and just do all this.
But in a nice way.
Yeah. But that was just our sense of sarcastic humor, I guess. That was just the way he was. So when he didn't come to haunt me right away, I was like, what is going on? Like, I miss you. And me and my friend, actually his best friend, me and his best friend got together. We bought a little spirit box and started playing with all sorts of different things, tarot cards, Ouija boards. We just started just trying to talk to him, and we ended up just being interested in paranormal stuff in general. We started going to different locations, and we were like, we should just start a YouTube channel. Nice. So we just did, and now I love it so much. I just love it.
And you're in Colorado? That's where you're based out of?
Yes, we're in Colorado.
And so your group is a haunting in Colorado. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you have
we have a YouTube channel. We have an Instagram. You can find that. It's called grunge_priestess. We have a Facebook group, a haunting in Colorado, daily creepy facts. We haven't been super consistent on that, but usually we post daily just creepy facts about haunted places or just mysterious, macabre things in general.
Oh, it's cool. I love it. Have you been, since you're in Colorado, you've been at the Stanley Hotel? Have you investigated that?
Everybody always asks that. Yes, I've been there. We haven't really done a video on it yet just because everybody goes there. And I think it's a little bit talked about too much. Maybe some people say it's a little bit more than it is.
Right,
right.
I mean? Well, it's great marketing for the hotel. That's for sure, if you want to bring guests in there. What about as far as, is there one place that you've investigated that you were like, this is really scary? You were in like an intense, serious situation?
Yes. So the Victor Hotel, Victor is a ghost town up by Cripple Creek, and the Victor Hotel used to be a bank, a morgue, a grocery store, a hospital. It was all these different things back in the day, and now that it's a ghost town, it's just a hotel, and it has one of the only 2 remaining birdcage elevators in the United States. And somebody
Wow.
actually died in this elevator. He was
Oh.
trying to go downstairs to get some water in the middle of the night. Didn't realize the elevator tenant was not present. The elevator was way down, and he stepped onto the elevator and just fell all the way down. And now
Oh.
people say they hear a voice saying, "Be careful," every time they step into this elevator. So we walked around that place at night for hours, and we actually went down to the second floor, walked around the entire floor. We filmed this. We have it on camera.
Yeah.
Went to the third floor, went back down to the second floor, did a whole nother lap around. And when we were almost done, we found about 20 lamps sitting in the hall. And I
What?
swear those lamps weren't there. We have it on camera that they weren't there. We asked the owner the next morning about it. He said there's no staff at night there. There's no one who would be cleaning even, let alone moving 20 lamps. But we have those lamps on camera, and I'm going to get that episode edited and put up here soon, but it was really freaky.
Were you guys kind of like looking at each other like, where did the lamps come from? Or were you just like, oh my God, what's happening?
Yeah, I think in the video, if I remember right, we're just talking to each other like, where did these lamps come from? Like, that's such a weird thing to just show up. It's
Right.
so weird and random.
Well, it's a pretty cool experience. Of course, it is Mother's Day, and you have a young daughter, correct?
I do. My daughter is 3 years old.
Does she understand that mommy goes out and hunts ghosts or the paranormal, or is she still probably too young to kind of figure out what's happening?
I think she understands. I've showed her a little bit of my channel, and she goes, "Oh, mommy's on the TV," and she gets excited. But she actually got a hold of my spirit box one day and was tuning through the stations, and I think she kind of picks up on things. Like she definitely has told me that she's seen things in her room, and I don't talk about any of this stuff with her
Oh,
because I
sure.
want her to be able to form her own opinions. But she's told me things that have kind of freaked me out. And her dollhouse got knocked over last summer, and it's a long story, but we've had a couple of weird things happen. I feel like she's in tune with the spirit world as well,
Wow.
even at such a young age.
And you said earlier that you feel like you're empathic, you feel things. Maybe you've passed it on to her. I guess time will tell if that's true. So when you walk into a location, are you drawn in by, spirits, or you can tell there's somebody there or some type of an energy when you walk into a haunted place? Just tell me how that works for you.
Absolutely. So I definitely can feel if there's been any sense of suffering or pain. I get a negative feeling, and I can kind of feel how people may have felt back then, but more so than me, my channel partner Paige, she picks up on things even more than me. She's very empathetic, and it's helpful to have her around too, because sometimes we pick up on the same things, and without even speaking about it, we both know what's going on.
Right. What about, protecting yourself? We all love to go out. Some places haunted, you're trying to gather evidence, but there is that thing you have to worry about, that you may encounter something, dark, and you don't want to bring something home with you. How do you protect yourself?
Absolutely. So we both have been practicing witchcraft for about 10 years. So we do a lot of protection rituals. We do all sorts of different rituals before we go out, but protection is a big thing for us. We use a lot of Palo Santo, sage. We grow our own herbs, and we write all of our own incantations for our rituals, and we locally source all of the ingredients we use for our spells and stuff. So I think we do a pretty good job at keeping ourselves protected. Like I said, we've had a few things happen in my home, but I generally feel pretty safe, and I rarely get really, really scared while we're out doing this stuff. It's more fun for me than anything.
So if you tell somebody, that you're a witch, do they look at you like, oh, you're one of the people burned at the stake at the Salem witch trials? Or how do you break down that stereotype, those barriers, to get people to, that, look, I'm not really like that. I'm into other things like you talked about. How do you reach people to kind of, like I said, get them to have an open mind, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So I generally don't bring it up with a lot of people, but when I do, I just explain how I genuinely feel about it. I think that a lot of witchcraft, people think we believe in gods and goddesses. I believe that our minds are capable than more capable than what we believe they are. I mean, we only used 10 to 12% of our brains. Dolphins use 15% of their brains, and they've developed sonar echolocation. So imagine what humans could do with an extra 2%. And I think that when you meditate and practice magic, you're really just tapping into your own subconscious abilities and kind of making things happen for yourself, really just manifestation. So it's really nothing too out of this world and too crazy. It's just kind of believing in yourself and making things happen.
Yeah, I mean, just open yourself to spirit. I like that positive energy about yourself. Switching back to the ghost hunting, we talked about Waverly tonight. Is there another? Do you have a couple of bucket list places that you'd really like to go, either here in the U.S. or abroad in Europe or someplace else?
Yes, there is a place called Elkhorn Lodge up in Estes Park. And my
Okay.
friends from Code 3 Paranormal, we were featured on their podcast as well, but they are
Cool.
obsessed with that place. And I really trust what they say because we've kind of become good friends with them, and they know what they're talking about. But they say that place is more legitimate than the Stanley. They say they think Stephen King, like, if that book was based off of anything, it was based on the Elkhorn Lodge. They think that place is the real deal. And they've had a lot of experiences there. So I'm looking forward to trying to go there this summer too.
What was the creepiest thing that was it audio or visual evidence or some type of an encounter they had? What was so scary about it?
Yeah, they had some stuff happen on audio. They caught some EVPs that were really interesting. Definitely check out their podcast too. They have some interesting stuff going on. But and I think one of them got touched. And she, she's not the type of person to exaggerate or ever lie about anything. And she genuinely felt like she was touched by something. So just knowing her and hearing her say that, like, I genuinely believe it.
That's cool. Being a former journalist, my BS meter is kind of high. So when you go into a place and you want to, open yourself to what's happening, how do you differentiate, real from imagination, or, you know what I'm saying? How do you, what's your process to say, okay, this is real, this is happening? I don't think so. We debunk it. How does that work?
Yeah. So I always am kind of a skeptic when I walk in somewhere. I think to myself, nothing's here, nothing's going to happen. And if something really is trying to get my attention, some type of energy, it really has to really do something to make me feel that, because I try to be a skeptic because I don't want to be one of those people who just thinks every bump in the night is a ghost or something.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
We don't do things that way. So when I really feel something and I say that, like on our channel, it's because I'm really feeling something. It's not just something that happens everywhere.
How about the work-life balance? As your daughter's going to get older, you're going to be doing more events, things at school and so on. Will that affect your ghost hunting, or how are you going to make time for everything, for your partner, for your daughter, and, of course, investigating the paranormal?
Yeah. So right now I have 2 jobs, and I'm in school, and I have the YouTube channel, and I'm a single mom. Wow. So if I can juggle all of that right now, I'm confident that I can still do everything I want to as she gets a little bit older.
Right. That's going to be great. What advice would you give to, people out there that do want to become a ghost hunter, maybe have a YouTube channel like yourself?
Yes.
How do they get started? What can they do to be a success like yourself?
I would definitely say just jump into it. People think you have to be ready and be at the right time in your life. There's never going to be a right time. Just get started. Even if you just have your phone camera, don't go buy a bunch of equipment. Just get started, go to fun places, and just enjoy yourself. And that's really the biggest part of it, is just getting started.
Sometimes yourself, just your feelings, emotions, opening your mind is even better than a spirit box. You may hear something or see something, Oh,
absolutely. And I've heard of people using balloons for some type of way of communication, or even just a flashlight, the ones that you twist on. I'm sure you know that trick.
Oh, of course. Yeah. No, I've done that.
Ways
yeah.
You can do it. It doesn't have to be expensive. It's more fun when you use expensive equipment, but it's just as genuine when you don't.
That damn stuff's expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I've got some stuff sitting over here still in an Amazon box. I'm deciding if I'm going to keep it or not.
Oh,
because
really?
it's like, can I afford this, or am I going to send it back to Amazon?
Nice.
Hey, Rick, what was that thing about Salina, Kansas? What's going on in Salina, Kansas?
I was just sharing that on screen, but it's in the comments. Basically, Pun TV. Basically, there's a Paracon that's coming up.
Oh, cool.
So the information and the link.
Salina, I love Salina. That's a good town.
So for folks interested in a Paracon, that you can make it out there. There's a link. There's information. That's all in the comments. So. Good stuff going on right there. We just have a few minutes left, so just to kind of wrap everything up and with a nice little bow, just was curious, Alexis, there, like thoughts about tonight, and any other questions that you might have for any of us, or anything that you're thinking right now.
Yeah, I feel like when Maryam said that I had, or somebody had like a childlike mind in an adult body, and then there was a drawing of the kid, I feel like just the child mind is, and how they said it, talking about how empathetic the child's mind is. I think that those two things relate a lot. I feel like it all really ties together, just knowing the history of the place. I think that what you guys said really, really hits home.
And it didn't scare you. You still love to go there one day? I mean, you're going to go check it out for yourself?
Absolutely, yeah.
That's cool. Very cool.
That's one of the locations, obviously, Mr. Dedo, you and I would certainly like to pay that one a visit. So,
hey, we're going to tell Patrick from the haunted side. He said we can go with him. We're going to hold him to that.
See, and I think he's also trying to get an investigation with you, Alexis, too. You had that in the comments. So,
really?
Sweet.
Awesome.
So feel free. We always tell, like, we have to go back and check all the comments. I try to give everybody a shout out and reply to them, but don't always get to it live during the show. So I always tell folks it's nice to go back in there. I'll go back in there. I'll comment. But if you get a chance and you want to look at it too, Alexis, because some people are giving you some shout outs and things like that. So, hey, M, with your big blue-eyed wolf there, any last words from you? Since we got
other than I thought it was really cool, the connection that Alexis, her daughter, her partner had with that place was really neat.
Yeah, that's what's always been fascinating about these remote views there. There's always a connection every single time, and usually not what one would expect too. It's kind of crazy like that. So Alexis, I dropped in there into the chats your Insta link, your YouTube channel, so folks could find you pretty easily. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight on this Mother's Day.
Thank you guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's so nice to get to actually talk to you guys like this.
Absolutely.
Our pleasure. Yes.
Yeah, so everybody, thanks so much for joining us. If you're watching on Pun TV, we've got the Spirit Box is coming up next with Mr. Greg. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that. For everyone else, appreciate you so much. Love you. Thank you for the support, and we will see you next weekend.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye, guys.